The alarm started before sunrise. Red lights flashed across the colony walls. Sirens screamed through the cold metal halls. People ran from their rooms in fear. The message echoed again and again. Security breach near the breeding vault. The breeding vault was not just a room. It was the future of the colony. It held the genetic banks, the birth records, the system that decided who could have children and who could not. If something touched the vault, panic followed. Within minutes, guards flooded the lower levels. And they found him there. Evan Cole stood near the outer corridor of Mara's zone. He looked confused, half awake, still wearing his simple work jacket. Two guards grabbed his arms before he could speak. "I didn't. What happened?" Evan asked. "Save it," one guard said. "You were seen here last night." The crowd started to gather. Whispers moved fast. The human. He was with her. The sterile giantess. Mara. She lived in isolation at the edge of the colony. She was taller than any door frame. Her strength was known. So was the dark mark burned into her shoulder. The mark that said sterile. In this colony, that mark meant useless. But last night, she had not looked dangerous. Last night, she had looked tired. It had been late when she came to Evan's workshop. He had been fixing a broken heating unit. When he turned around and saw her shadow fill the doorway, he froze. Her voice had been soft. "I will leave this colony soon," she said. "They have decided." Evan did not know what to say. No one visited Mara. No one spoke to her unless forced. She looked at him carefully. "I'm marked sterile," she continued. "I cannot give them what they want, so I am nothing to them." Her eyes did not show anger, only sadness. "I asked for one night," she said quietly. "Not for power, not for harm. Just one night where I am not treated like a mistake." Evan felt his chest tighten. He had seen the way people avoided her, the way children were pulled away when she passed. "You want company?" he asked. "Yes," she replied. "Simple kindness." "Before I disappear." Evan had hesitated. He knew the rules. Contact with marked individuals was watched, recorded. But he also knew something else. She was alone, so he agreed. They sat in her quiet chamber. They talked. She asked him about Earth, about oceans, about trees that moved in the wind. He told her simple stories. She listened like someone who had never been allowed to dream. There was no crime, no secret plan, just two beings sharing time. And now, at sunrise, the vault had been attacked. Back in the present, the guards dragged Evan into the main hall. The council members were already there. Screens showed deep claw marks across the outer vault door. Security drones were smashed into pieces. Someone had written one word on the wall near the damage. "Sterile." The crowd gasped. Warden Silex stepped forward. His face was cold. "The attack happened during the night cycle," he announced. "Access logs show movement near Mara's sector." His eyes locked onto Evan. And this human was present. Evan shook his head. "I was with her, yes. But we didn't go near the vault." A low murmur spread across the hall. Silex raised a hand. "How convenient. The sterile giantess asks for a night." The human agrees. And by morning, the vault is damaged. Two guards pushed Evan to his knees. "This is not proof," Evan said, trying to stay calm. "Check the full logs. Check the timestamps." Silex's voice grew sharper. "You broke colony law. You entered a restricted zone. You conspired." Suddenly, the massive doors behind them opened. Heavy footsteps echoed. Mara stepped into the hall. People moved back in fear. Even the guards tightened their grip on their weapons. She looked at Evan first, then at the council. "He did not touch your vault," she said. Her voice was steady, but strong enough to shake the room. Silex crossed his arms. "And we should trust you?" Mara lifted her marked shoulder into view. "You already decided what I am," she said. "So your answer does not matter." The crowd grew louder. Some shouted for punishment. Others looked unsure. Evan felt his heart race. This was moving too fast. Silex pointed at him. "Take him holding. At first light tomorrow, we will pass judgment." Guards pulled Evan toward the exit. As he was dragged away, he looked back at Mara. She did not look angry. She looked worried. And just before the doors closed, she spoke one quiet sentence. "They were always going to blame you." The holding cell was small and cold. Evan sat on a metal bench, staring at the dim light above him. He could still hear the noise from the main hall. The colony never stayed quiet for long when fear was in the air. Fear needed a target, and today that target was him. Outside the cell, two guards whispered. "It's easy," one said. "Blame the human. Close the case." The other nodded. "People need someone to punish." Evan closed his eyes. He understood something now. This was not only about the vault. This was about control. Footsteps echoed down the corridor. The guard stepped back as Warden Silex appeared. His uniform was clean. His expression was calm. Too calm. He stood in front of the cell. "You made a poor choice," Silex said. "I sat and talked," Evan replied quietly. "That's my crime." Silex tilted his head. "Your crime was giving hope to something that has no value." Evan's jaw tightened. "Mara is not something." Silex ignored him. "The colony runs on order. We have a system. The sterile do not reproduce. The unfit do not lead. The marked do not influence others. And humans?" Evan asked. Silex gave a thin smile. "Humans are useful, until they are not." He tapped the glass panel beside the cell. A screen lit up. Security footage appeared. It showed Evan walking toward Mara's sector the night before. "You see," Silex said. "Association. That proves nothing," Evan answered. "Show the vault camera." Silex's smile faded for a second. "Just a second." "The vault cameras were damaged during the attack," he said smoothly. "Unfortunate." Evan watched him carefully. Something felt wrong. "Check the access logs," Evan said. "Timestamps don't lie." Silex stepped closer. His voice lowered. "Timestamps can be adjusted." Before Evan could respond, another voice interrupted. "That is not entirely true." Dr. Leora then walked into view. She held a data tablet tightly against her chest. Her eyes were sharp and focused. "Warden," she said calmly, "the main server records are stored in 3 backup locations. Adjusting them requires full council clearance." Silex looked annoyed. "Doctor, this is a security matter." "It is also a scientific matter," Leora replied. "And facts matter." She turned to Evan. "The breach happened at 3:17, she said. "According to heat sensors, the damage to the vault door occurred in less than 2 minutes." Evan frowned. "I was still in Mara's chamber at that time." Leora nodded slowly. "Yes." Her chamber logs confirm 2 life signatures inside until 3:26. The guard shifted uncomfortably. Silex crossed his arms. "Life signatures can be manipulated. Not without leaving traces," Leora answered. There was silence. Evan felt a small spark of hope. "Then who did it?" he asked. Leora hesitated. There was another signal near the vault. A high-level ID code. Silex's expression did not change, but his fingers tightened slightly. "What ID?" Evan pressed. Leora swallowed. It was encrypted under something called Project Cradle. The name hung in the air like a heavy weight. Silex's voice turned sharp. "That information is classified." "Classified from whom?" Leora asked. "From the council? Or from the people?" The corridor suddenly felt smaller. Evan studied Silex's face. For the first time, he saw not confidence, but tension. "Project Cradle," Evan repeated softly. "What is it?" Silex stepped back. "It is irrelevant to this case," he said firmly. "The human violated colony law. He entered a restricted zone. That alone is punishable." "So you don't care who attacked the vault?" Evan asked. Silex's eyes hardened. "I care about stability." With that, he turned and walked away. Leora remained standing outside the cell. She lowered her voice. "You're being set up." Evan let out a slow breath. "I guess that part." "There is something else," she continued. "The sterile mark on Mara's shoulder. It carries an embedded chip." Evan looked up sharply. "For tracking?" "Yes," Leora said, "but also for remote authorization." Evan's stomach dropped. "You mean someone could use her mark to access systems?" Leora nodded once. "And if that is true," she said quietly, "then someone wanted it to look like Mara and you." Footsteps echoed again at the far end of the hall. Guards were coming back. Leora stepped away quickly. "I will try to access the Cradle files. But be careful. If the Council activates Scapegoat Protocol." "Scapegoat Protocol?" Evan asked. She looked at him with serious eyes. "It means the verdict is already decided." The cell lights flickered. A loud announcement filled the corridor. Public judgment at sunrise. Evan sat back slowly as the words repeated. Somewhere deep inside the colony system, a hidden file blinked open. Project Cradle, active, and his name was already attached to it. The lights in Evan's cell did not turn off that night. They stayed bright, as if sleep itself was not allowed. He sat still, replaying Leora's words in his mind. The mark carries a chip. Remote authorization. If that was true, then Mara's sterile mark was not only a label. It was a key, and someone had used it. At dawn, the guards did not take him to execution. They took him to the council chamber instead. The hall was packed. Citizens filled every level. Some looked angry. Some looked afraid. Most just wanted the problem solved. Warden Silex stood in the center. Today, he announced, we restore order. Mara stood on the opposite side of the chamber. Chains wrapped around her wrists, though everyone knew the chains were more for show than strength. If she wanted to break free, she could. But she stood still. Evan was pushed forward. Dr. Leora stepped into view from the side corridor. I request permission to present data, she said. Silex hesitated, then nodded. Briefly, Leora connected her tablet to the main display. The large screen above them flickered to life. Here is the timeline of the breach, she began. At 3:17, the vault's outer door received an override signal. The signal originated from a registered ID. The screen zoomed in. Mara, sterile mark authorization. Gasps filled the chamber. Mara did not move. Evan felt his stomach twist. Silex spread his hands. There it is. Her mark. Her access. Leora raised her voice. The signal path, however, did not begin at Mara's chamber. The screen shifted again. Lines of light traced through the colony's internal system. The signal was redirected through a private network node. The final point on the map flashed red. Private administrative sector. Whispers grew louder. Silex's jaw tightened. You are presenting incomplete data. No, Yora replied calmly. I am presenting accurate data. Evan stepped forward. If her mark can be used remotely, then someone copied her identity. Silex turned sharply. You expect this colony to believe in identity theft. I expect them to believe in logic, Evan answered. The council members looked at each other. Doubt had entered the room. One elder leaned forward. Doctor, can the sterile mark be activated without the host's knowledge? Yes, Leora said. If the chip is triggered through the control grid. All eyes slowly moved toward Silex. The warden lifted his chin. Project Cradle is classified for a reason. Evan spoke before he could stop himself. What is Project Cradle? Silence. Silex's voice became cold. Project Cradle is a protection system. It ensures the survival of this colony. By marking people as sterile. Evan asked. By controlling resources, Silex snapped. Leora stepped in again. The sterile mark is not medical. It is administrative. The words felt heavy. Mara finally spoke. So, I was never broken, she said quietly. Her voice was not angry. It was hurt. Silex raised his hand sharply. Enough. This hearing is over. The human violated law. He entered a restricted zone. That alone is enough. Two guards stepped toward Evan. But before they reached him, the large screen flickered. A new file opened automatically. Project Cradle, access log. The room froze. The most recent entry glowed on the screen. Override authorization, Warden Silex. Timestamp, 3:16. 1 minute before the breach. Gasps turned into loud shouts. Silex's face went pale for the first time. This is falsified, he said quickly. Manipulated. Leora shook her head slowly. The backup servers cannot be altered without full council consent. The crowd grew restless. Mara's chains rattled softly as she shifted her weight. You used my mark, she said, her deep voice echoing across the hall. Silex backed away. You are dangerous. You always were. No, Mara answered. I was useful, until I asked questions. The council elder stood up. Warden, he said, explain this log. Silex's eyes darted toward the exit. For a moment, Evan thought he might run. Instead, Silex pressed something on his wrist device. Suddenly, security shutters began sliding down over the chamber doors. Red lights flashed again. Emergency lockdown. Soldiers poured into the hall, weapons raised. The crowd screamed. Silex's voice boomed through the chaos. You want truth, he shouted. Truth is control, and I will not lose it to a human and a failed giantess. The shutters sealed shut with a heavy slam. Mara lifted her chained hands slowly. Metal links snapped like thin wire. The soldiers hesitated. Evan's heart pounded. This was no longer a trial. It was a takeover. And for the first time, the colony saw clearly. The sterile mark had always been a lie. And the real danger had never been the giantess. It had been the man standing in power. Silex raised his weapon. "End this," he ordered. The first shot echoed through the chamber. And everything changed. The first shot did not hit Mara. It hit the floor near her feet. A warning. The soldiers did not fire again. They hesitated. No one had expected the warden to turn weapons on the council chamber. The crowd screamed and moved back. Some ducked behind seats. Some froze in shock. Mara stood tall in the center of the hall, broken chains hanging from her wrists like dead metal vines. Her eyes were not wild. They were focused. Evan felt fear crawl up his spine, but not fear of her. Fear of what Silex was willing to do. "Stand down," one of the council elders shouted. Silex ignored him. "This chamber is under security command," Silex announced loudly. "Project Cradle Protocol engaged. Any resistance will be treated as rebellion." The soldiers tightened their grip on their weapons. Evan stepped forward before he could think. "Stop," he shouted. His voice sounded small compared to the chaos, but it carried. Silex looked at him with cold anger. "You are in no position to speak." "Neither are you," Evan replied, surprising even himself. Mara glanced down at him. "Evan," she said quietly, "move back." But he did not. He looked around at the crowd. He saw fear, confusion, doubt. This was the moment. If violence started now, it would never end. "You said this is about survival," Evan called out to Silex. "Then why are you attacking your own people?" Silex's jaw tightened. "They are weak. They question leadership. They question lies," Evan answered. Another soldier raised his weapon, aiming at Mara. Her massive hand lifted slightly. The air around her seemed heavy. She could charge. She could crush them. Everyone knew it. She did not move. Instead, she looked at Evan. "You wanted truth," she said. "Truth brings fire." Evan swallowed. His heart pounded so loud he could hear it in his ears. "Then let it burn lies," he said. The room went quiet for a second. Dr. Leora suddenly ran toward the main console at the center of the hall. "I can open the full cradle files," she shouted. "But I need access time." Silex saw her. "Stop her," he ordered. Two soldiers moved. Mara stepped forward, blocking them. She did not attack. She simply stood in their path. They stopped. No one wanted to be the first to test her strength. Evan turned back to Silex. "You can still end this without blood," he said. Silex laughed once, but it sounded strained. "You think they will forgive me?" Evan's voice lowered. "No, but they will remember how you ended." The words hung heavy between them. For a moment, Silex's confidence cracked. Behind him, the main screen flickered again as Leora worked quickly. Files scrolled across the display. Project Cradle, Population Control Metrics, Sterile Designation Algorithm, Resource Allocation Bias. Gasps filled the room again. "It's a numbers game," Leora shouted. They marked the strongest and most independent as sterile to limit influence. Mara's eyes widened slightly. Evan felt anger rise inside him, but he kept his voice calm. "You were never broken," he told her. Before she could answer, the screen changed again. A final file opened. Future Action Plan. Subject, Human Integration Risk. Evan's name appeared in the list. The crowd murmured louder. Silex saw it too. "You were always temporary," Silex said to Evan. "Humans question too much. You disrupt balance." Evan gave a small, tired smile. Maybe balance needs disruption. The shutters on the chamber doors began to shake. Citizens outside were pushing against them. The colony was waking up. Silex raised his weapon again, but this time his hand trembled slightly. "If I fall," he said, "this colony falls with me." "No," Evan answered softly. "It survives you." Mara stepped beside Evan now. Not in front of him. Beside him. Her shadow covered half the hall. "You asked for one night," she said quietly to him. "You have given me something else." "What?" Evan asked. A choice. The shutters burst open as outside citizens forced their way in. Security lines broke. Soldiers lowered their weapons slowly, unsure of who they served anymore. Silex looked around and realized the power had shifted, not through force, through exposure. He backed away from the center console. But as he did, his hand moved again to his wrist device. Evan noticed. Wait, he began. Too late. A loud mechanical hum filled the chamber. Deep below the floor, something massive powered on. Leora's face went pale as she read the alert. He activated the failsafe, she whispered. On the screen, new words flashed in red. Project Cradle, System Purge initiated. Mara looked down at Evan. What does purge mean? She asked. Evan stared at the display, fear colder than before settling in his chest. It means, he said slowly, he would rather destroy the future than lose control of it. The word purge kept flashing in red. A deep vibration moved through the chamber floor. It was not loud, but it was steady, like a giant machine waking up under their feet. Dr. Leora stared at the screen, her fingers flying over the console. It's accessing the breeding vault core, she said quickly. If the purge completes, all genetic banks will be erased. The crowd went silent. Erase the banks, erase the future. Silex stood near the edge of the hall now, breathing hard. His comm mask was gone. You see, he shouted. Without control, there is chaos. The system must reset. Reset, Evan yelled back. You're trying to wipe out generations. It's better than letting this colony fall into weakness. Silex snapped. Mara stepped forward. The floor trembled slightly under her weight. Children are weakness? She asked. Silex did not answer. He pressed another command on his wrist device. On the main screen, a countdown appeared. 4:59. The purge would finish in 5 minutes. Panic spread through the hall again. Some citizens rushed toward exits. Others looked at the council, waiting for orders that did not come. Evan turned to Leora. Can you stop it? She shook her head quickly. The failsafe is locked to the primary authorization chip. Evan froze. The sterile mark, he said. Leora nodded. He programmed the purge to require Mara's mark for shutdown. He used her ID to start it. Only the same mark can cancel it. All eyes turned to Mara. She looked confused for a second, then angry. He used me again, she said softly. Silex laughed bitterly. The system is efficient. Even a mistake can be useful. Mara's fist tightened. Evan stepped closer to her. We don't have time to be angry. We need access. The console was at the center of the hall, but soldiers still stood between them and the controls. They looked uncertain now. Their loyalty was breaking. Mara took one step forward. The soldiers moved aside, not because they were ordered to, because they chose to. The countdown dropped to 3:41. Mara reached the console. It was built for smaller hands. She hesitated. I don't know how to use this, she admitted. You don't need to, Leora said, moving beside her. Just place your marked shoulder against the sensor plate. Mara slowly turned. The dark brand on her shoulder seemed to glow under the red emergency lights. For years, that mark had meant shame. Now it was the only thing that could save the colony. Silex saw what they were doing. No, he shouted. That mark belongs to the system. He lunged forward. Evan reacted without thinking. He stepped directly into Silex's path. Silex shoved him hard. Evan fell against the floor, pain shooting through his side. But he grabbed Silex's wrist before he could move again. You said humans disrupt balance, Evan said through clenched teeth. Maybe that's what balance needs. Silex tried to pull free. You are nothing here. Maybe, Evan replied, but I can still slow you down. The countdown reached 2:12. Mara pressed her shoulder against the sensor plate. For 1 second, nothing happened. Then the console flashed blue. Identity confirmed. Override available. Authorized shutdown. Leora shouted. Mara looked at the screen. It displayed 2 options. Continue purge. Abort purge. Her massive finger hovered over the display. Silex kicked Evan away and rushed forward again. You don't understand. Silex yelled. Without control, everything collapses. Mara did not look at him. She looked at the crowd. At the children hiding behind their parents. At the elders who had once called her broken. At Evan, still trying to stand despite the pain. She remembered the night before. The quiet stories. The simple kindness. She pressed abort purge. The countdown froze at 103. The vibration stopped. The red lights faded back to normal white. For a long moment, no one moved. Then the main screen displayed new words. Purge canceled. Primary override holder. Mara. Gasps filled the hall again. Silex stared at the screen in disbelief. No, he whispered. That authority was never meant for you. Mara turned slowly to face him. You said I was nothing, she said calmly. She stepped closer. But even your system knew I mattered. Security officers surrounded Silex now. Not under his command, but under the council's. The elder from before stepped forward. Warden Silex, he said firmly. You are relieved of command. Silex looked around desperately. No one came to his side. He was alone. Evan finally pushed himself up from the floor. His side hurt, but he managed a small smile. The real saboteur, he said quietly, was never the Giantess. It was the man who feared losing control. As guards took Silex away, the hall slowly filled with noise again, but this time it was different. Not fear, relief. Mara looked down at her shoulder. The mark was still there, but it did not feel the same anymore. For the first time, it was not a symbol of shame. It was proof, and the colony had just witnessed who truly tried to destroy their future. But even as calm returned, Leora stared at the console with a worried expression. There's something else, she said softly. On the lower corner of the screen, a hidden message blinked quietly. Secondary protocol scheduled. Activation in 24 hours. The crisis was not over. It had only changed shape. The hall was finally quiet. Silex had been taken away under guard. The council stood together, shaken but alive. The breeding vault was safe for now, but the small message on the lower corner of the screen would not disappear. Secondary protocol scheduled. Activation in 24 hours. Dr. Leora stared at it with tight lips. This wasn't just one fail-safe, she said. Silex built layers. Evan stepped closer to the console. His ribs still hurt, but he ignored the pain. What does the secondary protocol do? He asked. Leora tapped the screen carefully. A hidden menu opened. Her face turned pale. It will reassign leadership authority automatically, she said. If the primary commander is removed, the system will transfer control to the next highest administrative rank. The council elder frowned. And who is that? The screen answered before anyone else could. Interim command assignment. Automated governance. Project Cradle Core. Mara tilted her head slightly. The machine? Yes, Leora replied. Silex designed the system to rule if he could not. The crowd murmured again. They had just removed a tyrant. Now they were facing a silent one. Evan folded his arms slowly. So in 24 hours, the colony becomes controlled by code, he said. Yes, Leora answered. And once it activates, manual override will be impossible. The elder looked tired. Can we shut it down now? Leora shook her head. The core is locked deep below the vault. It requires dual authorization. Mara glanced at Evan. What kind of authorization? She asked. Genetic and administrative, Leora said. Mara's mark and a human clearance ID. Everyone looked at Evan. He blinked. Mine. Yes, Leora said. Silex flagged you as integration risk. That classification gives you partial system recognition. Evan let out a slow breath. So he tried to mark me as a threat and accidentally gave me access. Humans question too much, Mara said softly. Evan gave a small smile. Sometimes that helps. The council elder straightened. Then we go to the core, he said firmly. No, Leora replied quickly. If too many people move toward the vault, it will trigger lockdown again. It must be a small team. Silence filled the hall. Mara stepped forward. I will go, she said. Evan nodded. So will I. Leora hesitated, then added, and I must guide you remotely. Within minutes, the hall emptied. The crowd stayed behind as Evan and Mara moved toward the lower levels. The path to the vault felt different now. Darker, colder. They walked side by side. You are injured, Mara said quietly. I've had worse, Evan replied. That is a lie. He smiled slightly. Maybe. They reached the heavy elevator platform that led deep underground. The doors closed with a low hum as it descended. For a moment, there was only silence between them. "You could have run," Mara said. "When?" Evan asked. "When Silex activated the purge. You could have saved yourself." Evan looked ahead. "If I run every time something is broken," he said slowly, "then nothing ever gets fixed." Mara studied him. "Humans are strange." "Yeah," he admitted. "We are." The elevator stopped with a heavy thud. The doors opened to reveal the core chamber. It was massive, a circular room filled with glowing columns of light. In the center stood the cradle core, a tall structure of glass and metal, pulsing softly. Above it, the countdown ticked. 23 hours, 12 minutes, and 45 seconds. The air felt heavy. Leora's voice came through Evan's wrist device. "You must place your hands on the dual panels at the same time," she instructed. "Mara, your shoulder must connect to the biometric field. Evan, your palm must remain on the human clearance pad." Mara stepped forward first. For years, the mark on her shoulder had meant control. Now she would use it to end control. Evan moved beside her. "Ready?" he asked. She nodded. They placed their hands on the panels. The core reacted instantly. Blue light spread across the room. Authorization request initiated. The system voice echoed calmly. "Confirm governance continuation." Evan frowned. "It's asking us to continue it." "Yes," Leora said. "That's the default." "Then where's the cancel option?" Mara asked. The screen changed. "Governance override available. Select replacement authority." Evan's eyes widened slightly. "It wants a new leader," he said. The colony did not just need shutdown. It needed direction. Mara slowly looked at him. "You save the future," she said. "What now?" Evan stared at the glowing core. For the first time, he understood something clearly. This was not about destroying a system. It was about building a better one. And whatever choice he made now would shape everything that followed. The countdown continued. 23 hours, 10 minutes, and 2 seconds. Time was running, and the colony was waiting. The core chamber hummed with soft blue light. The countdown continued above them. 23 hours, 9 minutes, and 41 seconds. Evan's palm remained pressed against the human clearance pad. Mara's marked shoulder glowed against the biometric field. The system waited for a choice. Select replacement authority. The screen showed 3 empty slots. The colony had never faced this moment before. Dr. Leora's voice came through the wrist device. "If you choose one individual, the system continues as before, just with a new leader. And if we choose no one," Evan asked, "then the governance structure resets," she said. "It would remove centralized control." Mara looked down at him. "No leader. Shared leadership," Evan replied. "Council oversight. Open records. No secret marks." The core pulsed slightly brighter, as if listening. Leora spoke again. "If you reset governance, the sterile classification system will dissolve automatically." It was built under cradle authority. Mara's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "For years," she said quietly, "my name was replaced by a mark." Evan turned toward her. "What is your full name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Marakai Thera of the High Plains." It sounded strong. Old. Proud. "Then maybe it's time they use it," Evan said. The system voice echoed again. "Confirm replacement authority." Evan looked at Mara. "We can choose you," he said. "You stopped the purge." The people saw it. Mara shook her head slowly. "I do not want to rule," she said. "I want fairness." Evan smiled faintly. That's usually a good sign. But he understood what she meant. Power alone had nearly destroyed the colony. It needed something different. He turned back to the glowing display. "Open governance," he said firmly. "Council transparency. Public access to Project Cradle archives." The system paused. Processing. Mara watched the screen carefully. "Will they accept this?" "They will have to," Evan replied. "Truth is already out." The core pulsed once, bright enough to fill the chamber with light. Governance reset confirmed. Centralized authority removed. Sterile designation system deactivated. For a moment, there was no sound except the fading hum of machines powering down. Mara stepped back slowly from the biometric field. The dark mark on her shoulder flickered faintly. Then it dimmed. Not erased completely, but no longer active. Her breath caught slightly. It feels quiet, she said. Evan stepped away from his panel as well. That's what freedom sounds like, he answered softly. Above them, the countdown disappeared. Instead, a new message appeared. System transition complete. Leora's voice trembled slightly with relief. You did it. Evan exhaled for what felt like the first time in hours. Is it stable? He asked. Yes, she replied. And permanent. They rode the elevator back to the main chamber. When the doors opened, hundreds of eyes turned toward them. The council stood at the front. The elders looked different now, less certain, but more honest. The elder who had questioned Silex stepped forward. What happened? He asked. Evan glanced at Mara. She stepped forward instead. Her voice was steady. The mark system is gone, she said. No one will be branded sterile again. Gasps moved through the crowd. Parents pulled their children closer, not in fear this time, but in relief. The elder bowed his head slightly. Marakai Thura, he said carefully, using her full name, the colony owes you thanks. For a second, she seemed surprised. No one had spoken her name in years. Evan felt a small smile form. The crowd slowly began to clap. Not loud at first, then stronger. It was not celebration. It was acceptance. The elder turned to Evan. And you, he said, what do you ask in return? Evan thought for a moment. He looked at the people, at the chamber that had almost become a battlefield, at the giantess who had once asked for only one night of kindness. Make one rule, he said simply. No decision without open proof. No labels without truth. The elder nodded. It will be written. Later that evening, as calm finally returned to the colony, Mara stood at the edge of the observation deck. Stars stretched across the dark sky. Evan joined her quietly. You asked for one night, he said. She looked down at him. I expected blame, she replied. And I received it. He nodded. Yeah. But I also received something else, she continued. What? A name restored. For the first time, her smile was not sad. Below them, the colony lights glowed steadily. No alarms, no red warnings. Just quiet. Everyone had feared the giantess marked as sterile. But in the end, the colony learned something simple. The real danger was never strength. It was silence in the face of lies. And the one thing no system could control was a human who refused to stop asking why.